have to keep away from the presence of Parliament for 2 days. I mean, sorry, 5 days. Just wait. Just trying to quote that. I said 2 days. Just wait. Minimum of 5 days. Yes. Actually, it's a minimum of 5 days. So unfortunately, he has a minimum of 5 days. Let us proceed. The Honorable Member for Nairobi County. Member has not even spoken, Honorable Passaris. What is the point of order about? Because no one has spoken yet. Proceed, Honorable Passaris. No one has spoken yet. You can't have a point of order over nothing. Proceed.
Thank you,
Honorable
Madam.
Kibagendi,
Sorry.
I was referring to a decision I'd already made, so it's not a new matter. Proceed, Honorable Passaris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I am standing here. Sorry for the distraction. Can you please stop shouting point of order? I want to contribute. Yeah, but I haven't even spoken. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address by His Excellency President. Madam Speaker, I need some protection here because I keep speaking and he keeps saying point of order, so I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. Okay, so I want to contribute to the motion.
Honorable Passaris, ignore him and address
Madam Speaker, I suffer from OCD, and the problem is he's right next to me, so he's really distracting me. Please, can you wait until I finish and then...
Don't address him, address the chair.
Through the chair. Through the chair. Okay, Madam Speaker.
You're losing your time.
Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity to speak to the State of the Nation address by His Excellency President William Ruto. And I have to say that the first thing that caught my attention is the respect that the President gave to the august House by calling us distinguished members, democratically elected. And also, I have to take note of the fact that every time we have a function where the President is, he gives utmost respect to elected members, which I never saw in my last tenure in Parliament. So I have to commend him for that. That puts us in a relationship where we can actually respect each other and work together. The President talked many times, mentioned the word national values in his speech, and I think we need to really have the national values of our country defined, because that is something that once we understand what our national values are, then as citizens and leaders, we should be able to move forward. And our national values are enshrined in our Constitution, and they are also enshrined in our national anthem. But I think we have forgotten our national values, and the reason why I say that is because sometimes when I take a drive on the highway and I see the street lights that have been put by the various bodies that put street lights on our roads, and I see that the street lights with solar have all been stolen on the highway, I feel that somewhere along the line we have no respect for the things that the investments that we make to get this country to become progressive. So I feel that we need to do a lot of work in defining our national values to the people. He talked about dignity and dreams, restoring the dignity of our citizens and the ability to dream. He talked about the challenges, and he did not shy away from telling us that we do as a nation have a lot of challenges, and we were in a deep hole and we need to get out of those challenges. And as a result of us working together, we'll be able to share the prosperity that was envisioned by our forefathers and the prosperity that he hopes to achieve for the nation of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, this week we have seen the return of David Cameron to as UK Foreign Secretary. He was a former Prime Minister, and he has actually been put into the government again. And when he was speaking in an interview today on CNN, he actually said that as a public servant, he is looking forward to coming back at such a time as this to be able to help steer the country and the world into the right direction. I feel sometimes as an opposition member that we should actually look as members of the opposition on how we can help and aid the government to be able to deliver to the people. We are all citizens of this country, and that we know that the country is in a place that really begs for attention in the positive way. So I really, as a member of the opposition, I really stand here and I say that the president is trying. He is working hard. He is traveling and trying to create bilateral relationships with other countries so that together we can be able to steer the.
Thank you. Your time is up. Member for Nairobi. Member for Molo.
Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I am now the Chair of Finance Bill and the Chair of the Committee of Finance and National Planning. Honorable Speaker, a lot of conversation here has been around subsidy. And I'll try to take the first 2 minutes to really explain why subsidies are not a solution to reduction of price. If you look at a demand curve, Honorable Speaker, a demand curve slide, if you have prices on the vertical on the left and quantity here on the right. A demand curve slides slopes from left to the right, meaning the higher the price, the lower the quantities people will demand of that particular product. Of course, unless that product is probably a luxury good, for example, but all factors constant. A supply curve slants from the right to the left, which means that the higher the price, the higher the quantities, the quantity producers would be willing to take to the market because they want to maximize on that high price, Honorable Speaker. So what a subsidy is supposed to do is move that supply curve to the right by the price that has been subsidized. So the consequence of that, Honorable Speaker, should be to reduce the price of that particular good or service. But what does it actually do? Because that subsidy goes to the producer, the producer has the advantage of taking advantage of that price and maximize his profits. And maybe to bring it into better perspective, we've seen the great success of subsidizing fertilizer. But you'll find that the reduction, the percentage decrease in the cost of fertilizer has not led to a proportionate decrease in the price of maize. Because farmers, now, although they were saved money in their production, they are holding on to their maize because they want better prices. So even though their production cost was lower because of the reduced cost of fertilizer. So the same thing was happening when you were subsidizing maize meal through the millers or fuel through the oil marketers. They saw a window of maximize their profits. And so essentially, we're using taxpayers' money to go into the pockets of a few people who are the oil marketers and the maize millers, and consequently, the price is not reduced. The former Cabinet Secretary Munya told us the price of maize meal will go down to 80 shillings. It never happened. The cost of fuel did not go down, despite us sinking billions of shillings to that, which was never paid, by the way, Honorable Speaker, which has been paid by this regime and this particular budget, Honorable Speaker. So this consequently shows that subsidizing, especially subsidizing consumption, cannot be a way of reduction in prices. It has been proved by very many economic theories. It is practical. Even now, farmers are not willing to sell their maize at a lower cost, even though they were subsidized their fertilizer by more than 160%, Honorable Speaker. But the advantage of this program, it going to farmers, it means that this money is going to farmers' pockets. Those people at the bottom of the pyramid, what we call the bottom-up economic transformation. And therefore, the increase of circulation of money to those farmers by increasing their disposable income, because their cost of production is lower than for example, the previous year it should be, then you'll find they're spending more, and that will even see the velocity of money increasing in the market, Honorable Speaker. having settled that on something, Madam Speaker, what are some of the highlights, as the President said? Education of teachers, recruitment of teachers, clarity in JSS, reduction, as I said, of fertilizer, healthcare, moving from curative, preventive ways of fertilizer, the digital highways, the ICT hubs, because all these, Honorable Speaker, are geared towards enhancing our human capital. Because the biggest resource we've been able to prove as a country we have is not necessarily coffee for export or tea for export. It is human capital. And that is why our remittances from our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, our highest foreign exchange earners. So these honorable speakers, as ably said by the President, will lead to reduction in cost of living and better times for this Republic of Kenya. They are started to be here and they are even coming, Honorable Speaker. With that, I beg to support.
Thank you. The next chance will go to the member for Busia, Honorable Catherine Omanyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I listened very carefully to the President's speech that day, and so many things were a little bit amiss, because when he mentioned Gorogoro going down to 60, I come from Busia, and that is our staple meal. I got so excited. But when I went back home this weekend, the reverse is what I found. Gorogoro has not gone down. Instead, it has been hyped. And because of this crisis, taxation, all the drama, you watch at people who would have made maybe Kenyans' life better, the tourists at the airport being tortured. Our country is going down the brink. It is a high time the President listened to people who care about this nation, people who will tell him the truth, people who will call a spade a spade. Just days after he gave us a speech here about reducing spending and everything, we saw the cabinet ministers and the PSS flying helicopters all over the country, using over 300,000 to just go and plant a seedling that is worth 10,000. So I said, where have we really gone wrong to God? Maybe God is punishing us because we have done things, carried the Bibles all over and said God is God, but I think the things that we do, if you do not seal the gaps of corruption in this nation, Kenya, but you insist on adding or increasing the taxpayers, then the same money that you say you have achieved is still going to these tunnels of corruption. So there's a lot of confusion. The President told us there will be no El Nino. The weather forecast people said there will be El Nino. Some of us who are farmers were forced to harvest prematurely, fearing the destruction that would be caused by El Nino. After a while, the President said, no, these people at the forecast department lied to all of us. And then just recently, again, I hear the Deputy President say, now whatever we are receiving is El Nino. So we do not know who is the spokesman from the State House to try and say some things and not leave the President himself to keep looking like a cartoon when he says some of these things. So a lot at the moment is lip service. We want real service, and all of us as leaders, let us tell the President the truth and not keep bombarding the State House with a lot of lies. I saw even when he was taking a breath, taking water, people were clapping, and I was wondering, are they clapping because he's thirsty? We should not exaggerate, because real Kenyans, the hustlers, the people we said we will protect, are committing suicide. They are not seeing anything. Anything we say from today as leaders, we must be accountable, because Wanjiku will look at us and there is nothing we will do in future to try and convince them. The hope is gone. Kenyans are not happy, and that is the truth. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The next chance will go to Honorable Nelson Koech. Unlike other members, as directed by the Speaker, you're entitled to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Honorable KK seems to have an issue with the time, but I will try to be very brief to allow other members also to make that contribution. Honorable Speaker, thank you for allowing me to give my remarks on the State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President. For those who care to listen, the President's speech was reassuring amid the grim and amid a lot of anxiety in the country. The President sought to reassure the country that we are on the right track. When His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto and his government took over leadership, this country was literally in the brink of an economic collapse. This country was heading to the dogs because of fiscal indiscipline that is manifested even as we are talking. Yesterday, I'm sure many of you have seen online the pictures that are going around on WhatsApp groups and on different fora of the state of our airports and the leaking roofs of our airport. These are some of the things that were done in the dying days of the previous administration that really paints a picture of exactly how resources, like the President did put, we were living large on borrowed money. We literally did not have any discipline. The President will have had the luxury to come in and sit pretty and also continue borrowing until this country collapsed, or he decided to take that bold step of restoring fiscal discipline and avoiding an unnecessary wastage. Number one is funding of, first of all, funding of production rather than subsidizing consumption. Many have said here, and I'm sure even in our farms, for instance, even in my own farm, you can see the production today in terms of maize. And like he did say in the State of the Nation address, we've had a bumper harvest this year. We are going to have production of almost 80 million bags that is going to feed the country. When you lower food inflation in any economy, you are in the right trajectory. You're actually trying to stabilize, and that is exactly where we are as a country, lowering the cost. I'm sure even in shelves now, when we came in, there was a lot of noise about lowering the cost of flour or unga. And right now, as we are talking, the President did put that we are, prices of unga are retailing between 140, lows of 140 and highs of 175. That tells you that the cost or the fertilizer subsidy has worked, and the cost of food is going to drop down going forward. The President also went further, and I want to just quickly refer back to the Finance Act, which he also enumerated, importation of fish from outside the country. He mentioned that in Kisumu, Homa Bay, and many other areas along the Lake Victoria, there is big construction of landing sites to enable the fisher folk to continue to harness the potential of the fish farmers and make sure that the fish within the lake region is sold in the market for good value, and farmers there can earn something from the lake. That, I think, is a brilliant move that we also, members of parliament, did participate in making sure that we are able to restore the market and deny the fish that came from outside the country the space in Kenya, or rather the market within the country. On independence of independent institutions, the President did indicate, like has been mentioned by many of my colleagues, that the first thing that he did that evening after being sworn in was to give autonomy, first of all, to appoint the judges of the Court of Appeal, and number two, to give autonomy to the police by allowing the counting officer to be the IG. That brings accountability, and it gives freedom to our independent institutions. On sugar sector, the President did mention that in the new sugar sector, he has written off billions and billions of loans that were owed to different sugar milling companies to allow all those in the sugar growing areas an opportunity again to start afresh and to bring sugar industry back on the fold and to allow as many farmers as possible to utilize the potential in the sugar sector.
Order, Honorable Koech. Just for the benefit of members, just take your seat for a minute. I know members were asking why the member or the chair for defense was given 10 minutes, and this was a resolution by the House, and it was made that the chairperson on the Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs should speak to the report submitted under Article 132.1 of the Constitution, realization of national values. The chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations is to speak on the report submitted under Article 132.1 of the Constitution relating to the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. And finally, the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs to speak on the report submitted under Article 247 of the Constitution relating to the state of security of the country. That is why there is an extra 5 minutes for those 3 chairs, as has been decided on the House. So even as you conclude, Honorable Koech, ensure that you also touch on the international obligations.
I was going to finish with that, but on the international front, economic diplomacy that the President has engaged in for the last 1 year, it's been extremely gainful. I'm sure even today many of you are aware that China is now relaxing its rules, visa requirements for traveling to China to enable ease of business. The President has done so many trips outside the country, all that are meant to benefit this country in terms of financing or different sector, energy, agriculture, and many other sectors that the President has engaged in. Most importantly is in peace. Kenya now has been, is an anchor state for peace within the region. And the President has continuously engaged, particularly on areas of security. It is also noteworthy to the House, Honorable Speaker, that we have our Kenya Defense Forces, amongst other forces within the region, in DRC, trying to restore peace in DRC under the umbrella of ICRAF, and that has been largely successful. In the area of the defense, Kenya that has been restoring some order in Somalia. As we enter into the drawdown by our military officers, it is also worth noting that Kenya has succeeded in restoring some normalcy in Somalia, and very soon our officers, as indicated, will be back in the country. And that is important because instability within the region is instability within our country. The President has continued to make sure that countries within our borders continue to be peaceful, and part of that is making sure that the deployment of our officers and security forces continue until there is peace within our borders. Within the country, in the North Rift, you remember, Honorable Speaker, that earlier this year, as a joining force with the Kenya Police Service, the Kenya Defense Forces was sent to the North Rift, and I'm sure honorable members from that region can attest to the fact that even though there has not been complete removal of the insecurity in that region, there has been relative calm in the north of our country. Honorable Speaker, with those very few remarks, I beg to support.
Thank you. Chair, Labour Committee, Member for Runyenjes, Honorable Eric Mushangi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was sitting here last week when His Excellency the President was delivering his speech, and I was following very keenly to listen to the issues that affect our people. And I am glad that the President spoke to a number of things that really are impacting on our people. And one of the things that he talked about, Honorable Speaker, is an issue to do with farming. Because, Honorable Speaker, a hungry nation or a hungry people, a hungry person is an angry person. What that means is, Speaker, that you cannot please people when they are hungry. And one of the things that the the president started by doing was to subsidize fertilizer. And Honorable Speaker, I was listening to him as he was mentioning a farmer from Embu County by name Albert Munyi. And Honorable Speaker, I wish to confirm that together with Honorable Munyi, that many of our farmers have been able to receive the subsidized fertilizer, which they were previously unable to buy, owing to the fact that it was costing up to around 6,500. But they were able to buy the same fertilizer at the same amount. Yesterday, Honorable Speaker, while we were planting trees, the message from our people is that they needed fertilizer the more, because they are now top dressing. A number of them have received it, and they are continuing to receive it from the government of Kenya. And we wish to appreciate and thank the President for thinking about food stability and availability and security in our country, because that is actually what causes a lot of people to make noise when they cannot afford their meals. Honorable Speaker, I was delighted to listen to the President talk about coffee and tea. And I was delighted this morning that I saw His Excellency the Deputy President chair a committee that was supposed to operationalize the money that was made available for the coffee farmers. Because right now, as we speak, the farmers are anticipating, are highly expectant of the money that they are supposed to be given from the sale of their coffee. So we are delighted that our farmers are going to receive the money. What we would like to request from the government is for the CS cooperative to make sure that this money is available for the farmers as fast as possible, so as to make sure that they don't continue suffering from the delays in the disbursement of these funds. Honorable Speaker, I was delighted to listen to the President talk about the universal health coverage. And you see, this is an issue that is very dear to Kenyans, because a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And I remember a few weeks ago we passed a bill here, the Facilities Improvement Bill, which is supposed now to ensure that our level 4 hospitals, for example, are able to utilize the funds that they collect. Because what used to happen is like, for example, a level 4 hospital like that of Runyenjes, once they receive funds, they were not able to utilize the same funds. They were channeling the funds to the county coffers, and then wait for the same funds so that they procure fuel for the ambulances, or even buy essentials that they could have otherwise bought from the finances that they receive. So we believe that the approach that the President has taken on the issue of UHC is going to work for the benefit of the Kenyan people, so that we can take care of our health. Honorable Speaker, I wish to say that even in the challenging times, we require great leadership. And we thank the President for providing strong leadership as he steers this republic out of the debts that we owe the Western countries, the Chinese. We believe that better days are ahead, and it's just a matter of time. With those few remarks, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The next chance will go to the member for Masinga, Honorable Joshua Mwalio.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to be able to speak on the President's speech. I want to say that I like the way the President started in one of the phrases. He said, "Together with the people of Kenya, we have changed everything." That means that the President is following what the Kenyans are saying in terms of his leadership and in terms of what he needs to do for this country. And I want to say that one of the things that is troubling us is the cost of living. And in the cost of living, it is being addressed by the farmers that have been able to come out and do a serious farming. And by so doing, the government are given the subsidy of the fertilizer, which is able to reach every Kenyan. In Masinga, my constituent, which is in a very remote area in Machakos County, even the farmers receive notifications in their phones on when to pick their fertilizers from the depot. And even there is a conversation that they are saying that the NGCDF should build for them a store so that we can have a store in the constituency instead of us having it in the regional center. And that is a conversation that we are going on. That means there is a goodwill in this fertilizer, and the farmers are taking it very positively. I am aware that the digital transformation is also going on, and I've been able to do in my own constituency in the previous term 4 hubs that have seen a lot of change as far as the young people are concerned, because they have been able to do their work, do their applications, do also their assignments from their various universities and colleges from the same hub which I had to install for them. And therefore, I am sure that as far as the apps that are being implemented by the ministry are concerned, it will be a game changer, because the small ones which we had installed last term, they have already been able to transform some of the gains, and we have seen the young people are happy, and they are able even to look for the jobs from those platforms. Another thing that I picked from the president's speech is that the support that the Ministry of Agriculture is supporting the farmers. For example, they have been able to float from the Department of Crops. They have been able to plot drying areas whereby they can be able to dry the what do you call them, the grains, the grain drying centers, which are being built in 5 centers, 2 in Meru, 1 in Bomet, and there are others which I cannot remember, but I have picked them from the adverts, which they have already floated the tenders, so that they can be able to support the farmers to do that. The other thing that I have been able to pick is that the fish landing base, the blue economy is also doing wonders. 22 landing bases have been able to be identified. Some have already been able to be built, and the fishermen are able to fish from the sea and from Lake Victoria, come and put the fish in those landing bays, in the cold rooms that are there, in the processing rooms that are there, so that the people can come and sell their fish from those centers. And the exporters of fish are able to access those landing bays and be able to sell to
Your time is up. Member for Mandera South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would remind us a speech by the late President Moi. He said, when he described what a good speech looks like, he said a good speech should be like a short skirt, short enough to generate interest and long enough to cover the subject. And that is what the president's speech was like. It was short, it was precise, it was inspiring, it was forward-looking and foundational. The President reminded us on the successes the Hustlers Fund had made, that now the Hustlers Fund had dispersed at 6.6 billion, and that there were savings of about 2.3 billion. And he also reminded us on the pension savings, which had increased from 1.4 billion per month to 6.5 billion per month. The President also reminded us on the successes that the fertilizer program has had, especially towards contributing food security and food production, especially in the maize-producing areas. The President also told us about the successes that we have achieved in the education sector, and particularly the report of the Presidential Working Party on education and the radical recommendations that are in that report. The President also reminded us that his regime has employed 56,750 new teachers, that is 56,750 new teachers, and that health is getting revolutionized, where the Afya Nyumbani has employed 20,000 employees, and we have about 100,000 community workers in our counties as community health promoters. The only thing that I think the President left out, and I wish the President had talked about this, while he elucidated about the successes we have had in agriculture and food production, the President forgot to mention the successes we have had in the livestock sector, which supports about a fifth of the population of this country. The ASAL counties in this country hold a population of 10 million Kenyans, which is a fifth of the population, and they rely heavily on livestock, which contributes about 13% to the GDP. So I wish the President had mentioned that the successes that we have made in the livestock sector, because it has a lot of impact on the life of the pastoralists, especially those ones in the northwestern and northeastern parts of this country. I also thought the President will talk about the ravaging El Nino rains, which have really caused havoc, particularly up in the north. As of Monday, we have been told that there are 46 deaths related to the floods caused by El Nino rains, but the President did not talk about the El Nino rains, and I wish he had